You are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast. I'm Dylan, able to take on Twitter. Hey, talk to the latest Auburn athletics news as is with a heavy heart. There's no way I'm the first person that you're hearing breaking this news. Bruce Pearl has announced his retirement as Auburn's basketball coach. And I'm going to spend the last half of the show talking about this, but I have to mention it now. Yeah, very emotional time for every Auburn fan out there for Bruce Pearl to announce his retirement, even though I think the message boards broke the news first. But typical Tuesday show fashion, we're going to go over the 5 keys Auburn needs to do to take down Texas A&M and what I'm deeming as a redemption game for the Auburn Tigers. So we're gonna push the Bruce Pearl conversation to the end of the show, and then of course, tears will be shed, and we'll give Bruce his flowers, which he has. Give him the whole garden, give him the whole pasture of flowers for what he has done for Auburn's basketball program. But again, we'll talk about that the last half. So what we're going to do today is go over the 5 keys yet again for what Auburn needs to do to take down Texas A&M. Again, it should have been a ranked direct matchup, but again, the AP poll sucks. Per the usual, Auburn will be traveling to College Station. Again, this is a rivalry game in the sense of whoever usually the home team wins these games. And it's always a barn burner, always down to the wire, always something stupid happens in these games. It never fails. But Auburn coming off a loss against Texas A&M, and a loss that leaves a lot of sour taste in all of our mouths because of how that game went and how Auburn lost that game. So kind of getting to and comparing it to what Hugh Freeze mentioned in his press conference and on Tiger Talk, I'll start off with, of course, number 1, protect Jackson Arnold and clean up the pass protection. Auburn gave up 10 sacks last week against Oklahoma, or this past weekend against Oklahoma. And, of course, a lot of these can be blamed on the fact that Jackson Arnold did not get the ball out fast enough. But, again, 47% of the time, Jackson Arnold was getting pass rushed. He was getting pressured in the pocket. And, again, it's something that we need to see a maturity happen in, is with this offensive line and with the quarterback situation. Jackson Arnold is the quarterback for the Auburn Tigers. He's not going to lose that job. He's not done anything. He's not had a single turnover on the year, if I'm not mistaken. And he's protecting the football. Now, is he being a little careless with it at times? Yes, because he's holding on to it too long, trying to wait for the play to happen. But he wants that play to happen. But what you need to do is get quicker passes. That'll help out a lot with the pass protection as well. If you get quicker passes and get Eric Singleton involved a lot more than you did, you can save a lot of those issues and get a lot of those issues out of the way. But again, I desperately think Auburn needs to figure something out with this offensive line. I don't know if this 5 is the best 5. Got to reevaluate his tackles because, good Lord, I cannot deal with another 10 penalty game from the offense and having every single offensive lineman commit a penalty. Cannot happen against Texas A&M. If you don't want to make this loss a losing streak, you got to fix that mistake. You're not going to win a lot of football games when your quarterback's getting sacked 10 times. So fix that issue, and you should be just peachy. Up next, lean on the run game a little bit more. This is something that Hugh Freeze also mentioned. He wished he'd run the ball more against Oklahoma. And, I think that with how the O-line was kind of giving up a lot of pressure, this would have helped alleviate some of that if they had to worry about the run game, which Auburn ran the ball decent for the running back part of that. I think Jeremiah Cobb had another pretty decent game. Damari ran hard whenever he was able to find a hole. And, of course, Damari is the power back. So he gets those hard-fought yards going forward. So I do think that the run game is a big part of how Auburn can get a win over Texas A&M, is utilizing Jeremiah Cobb and utilizing Damari Alston to the best of your abilities. Because, again, I think Jeremiah Cobb is the truth. I think Jeremiah Cobb throughout these, and of course Damari was dealing with an injury. I think Jeremiah showed a lot of the past 3 games that he has been like the starter in. That I think he's earned that role going forward. And I love what Jeremiah Cobb brings to this offense: home run ability, the speed, the quickness, ability to make things happen in open space. And again, shockingly, a guy who can break tackles at ease whenever he gets the ball in the middle, which I'm shocked to be saying that. It was something I thought was a flaw in his game, but he has since turned that into a good strength of his game. So Hugh Freeze mentioned it, and it thinks it keeps the offense very balanced. And again, it helps Jackson Arnold a whole lot more if there's more. What's the word I want? More of a threat for Auburn to run the ball with someone not named Jackson Arnold in the backfield. So yeah, utilizing the run game a lot more and letting Jeremiah Cobb cook, because dude's been on one since he's gotten the job. Number 3 on my list, secondary needs to hold up against these dynamic wide receivers. Mario Craver and Kevin Concepcion are elite wide receivers. That is a very good wide receiver duo that the secondary is going to have to find a way to lock down. Auburn did not have to they're definitely the best 2 wide receivers that Auburn has seen thus far this season in a tandem, with Baylor being a very close runner up to that. But again, Kevin Concepcion was a guy I was really hoping Auburn was going to try to grab, and I was terrified at the idea of Alabama picking him up first. Luckily, but not luckily, because Auburn still has to face him, A&M grabbed him. And he's been elite thus far. He has been very, very good, as has Mario Craver and a lot of these A&M wide receivers. I mean, A&M is a dangerous, dangerous team. This is a team that went into South Bend and took down Notre Dame. And I'm hoping I got South Bend right, if I'm not mistaken. They went on the road versus Notre Dame and took down Notre Dame. These wide receivers are legit. And Rayshawn Pleasant played well in his – and what Hugh Freeze said is like his first time playing DB, which I don't think that's true at all for Auburn. I do believe he has been on the field as a DB, unless I'm terribly mistaken. There's no real answer yet if Jay Crawford will be available for this game. Of course, today was just a walkthrough, or yesterday was a walkthrough for them, so there's no way of knowing that. But it'll be up to Kyan Lee, Rayon Strader, and the rest of this Auburn defensive backer to make sure these wide receivers have a very bad day. But of course, if the wide receivers aren't having a good day, maybe it's the hands of that front 7, which has been doing such a great job this season at getting pressure on the quarterback. And of course, that brings me to my number 4, controlling Marcel Reed's dual threat ability. Again, last year I brought this up with DeMarcus Riddick. Now DeMarcus Riddick has some help with Xavier Atkins. You have got to find a way to shut down Marcel Reed. Marcel Reed is the best quarterback in the state of Texas. Marcel Reed is the best quarterback in the state of Texas and the SEC, to narrow it down a little bit. Marcel Reed does not get nearly the amount of hype that he should get. He is an absolute dog. And believe me, I was hoping that he would enter the portal last year. In some way, some form, Connor Wegman would have stayed. And Marcel Reed would have got kicked out, and Auburn could have grabbed him. He was on my list that I mentioned of guys I would hope Auburn could get if possible. It was a Christmas list kind of thing. Marcel Reed currently is the number 2 rusher on A&M. He's also near the top of the SEC and passing yards. He needs to be contained in the pocket, and you need to force him to only play with his arm. But even then, you need to force him to make mistakes. You need to keep him in the pocket. If Marcel Reed gets out in open space, and with Auburn and how they've been tackling in these past few games, good Lord, it'll not be a fun day for this defense. Marcel Reed, I will say that I think Marcel Reed has the opportunity here to be the best quarterback Auburn has faced or will face all season. I love Marcel Reed's game. Dude is an absolute dog. He is, and he's like, I think he's the quarterback that people say Jalen Milroe was, or could have been. Marcel Reed is that level of athlete. He is dude, he is going to make an NFL team very happy one day. I love Marcel Reed's game, and he's a guy I root for. whenever he's not playing Auburn. Of course, I hope Saturday he has the worst game of his career, but then he goes on and has a decent season the rest of the time. This is just, one of those dudes. But again, if Auburn cannot contain Marcel Reed, it will not be a good day, especially with how tenacious that defense is on the other side of the ball for Texas A&M. So, got to contain Marcel Reed at all costs. All eyes need to be on this front seven, getting pressure on Marcel Reed, keeping him inside the pocket, and taking his legs out of the game. That is Auburn's best chance to win defensively. And lastly, again, no shocker here, Hugh Freeze mentioned this. We all saw it happen live on Saturday. You need to win on special teams. Last week, you had some stupidity going on with the punt returners, which a couple of plays. Malcolm Simmons trying to make everything happen when it was not there. Could have let the punt go, and Auburn got a touchback, the ball at the 25, but no, had to start that drive off at the 3. And then, of course, you had the botched snap on the punt. You had another missed field goal that, you're just not confident in that ability anymore to make those. Auburn cannot afford to have any more of these mistakes. And Hugh Freeze mentioned that these were heavily addressed in practice and in the locker room and whatnot. So, got to start seeing some change there. You have got to. It has been a year. It's been years since the last time I felt confident in Auburn catching a punt, having a good stretch of punts, making field goals. I get queasy every time Auburn lines up for the simplest of field goals. Unless McPherson is kicking the ball, I don't feel great about it. I don't. So, this game, need to start seeing that improvement. Cannot have mistakes. There was a year, I forgot what year exactly it was, the Los Angeles Chargers had the best offense, the best defense in the NFL, and they missed the playoffs because they had the number 32 special teams unit. You have got to win on special teams to win in the SEC. You've got to win on special teams to win in college football. So, need to get these things fixed, and Auburn can find a way to get a major redemption win going forward into the bye week before that Georgia game. So, those are my keys for success for the Auburn Tigers going to this game. Let me know in the conversation below. What do you think Auburn needs to do to take down Texas A&M? Of course, Thursday we'll be previewing this game and giving our predictions and of course for the top 10 games of that week as well. And of course, one more little tidbit of news before we get into the Bruce Pearl conversation, where I can't lie, I might tear up. I've been tearing up all day about this. Excuse me. But I had to pull up the actual graphic itself. The SEC has announced that they have moved on to 9 conference games going into next year, which that's not new news. That's old news. But what is new is the fact that Auburn now has their 3 permanent rivals set. And I think today they're going to announce the 4 games, the 4-year future schedule of SEC opponents for every team. So you'll have these 3 teams every year, and then you'll interchange. I think every 2 years you'll play the entirety of the SEC. So everyone knew the first 2. It's the permanent rivals now. It's Alabama and Georgia. And I think there's been a lot of people saying who they hope Auburn's is. Now, if you're an old head, you're probably saying Florida or Tennessee. I think recency, I would say LSU was my pick to be that 3rd team. Again, it's an Auburn tradition to have to go through a gauntlet of a schedule every year. So why not go ahead and schedule Bama, Georgia, and LSU on a yearly basis? But for some reason, they didn't see it that way. And I could read through some of these. And again, some of these, it's like the 3rd team just makes 0 sense for every single team, except for a couple where I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Like Missouri makes sense. It's like a Big 12 reunion going on with Arkansas, OU, and Texas A&M. Go and let the Big 12 have some fun. But Auburn makes no sense. So Auburn, again, Alabama, Georgia, 3rd team on the list. Not Tennessee, not Florida, and it's not LSU. It's not even Ole Miss or Arkansas. It's Vanderbilt. And again, I find it weird. I think that's something that people had been saying was going to happen, but I just thought it'd be stupid. And again, Vanderbilt doesn't have any big rivals outside of Tennessee, but Vanderbilt for Auburn? The Tiger Bowl, Auburn and Florida have a history together. Auburn and Tennessee have a history together. I would say Auburn and Arkansas, or Auburn and Ole Miss. Those teams have history against one another. But Auburn and Vanderbilt? No. And again, I think a lot of this does come to the fact that Auburn is like 22 and 22 all time versus Vanderbilt, but outside of last year, I mean, it's been a while since Vanderbilt beat Auburn. I just don't find it to be a rivalry in the sort of that. Like, I've never had a hatred in my heart for Vanderbilt. Like, if you're going to make them a yearly rival, I need to have some kind of hatred towards them. Like, I don't like Lane Kiffin. I don't like Ole Miss. Their fans are annoying. I would much rather have Ole Miss as that third team. LSU, I mean, I don't hate LSU completely, but on those late nights in Death Valley, those barn burning events against LSU, I mean, those are some all-timers that you see all the time for that Tiger Bowl. Tennessee and Florida, you got the history of those teams playing against one another. SEC championships have been won based off of the winner of the Auburn-Tennessee or Auburn-Florida game. Vanderbilt makes zero sense to me. Absolutely zero sense. And again, I go through this list. Alabama isn't even on LSU's 3 games. I think LSU got off scot-free on this. LSU has Arkansas, Ole Miss, and A&M. And LSU-Arkansas, I'll give you that. I think LSU-Arkansas is a pretty decent rivalry. LSU A&M is a fabricated rivalry because A&M needed one in the SEC. This is not a real rivalry. LSU Ole Miss, I don't know the history between those two programs enough to really get that. I know LSU and Arkansas do hate each other, very much so. Florida got Georgia, which, yeah, makes sense. Largest outdoor cocktail party. But they didn't get Tennessee. They got, I guess, Florida makes sense. They got South Carolina, which, again, the history there was Steve Spurrier. But I think Florida and Tennessee is a good rivalry to kind of keep. Tennessee got Kentucky, which, okay, but I'd much rather see a Florida or a Georgia there. Because, again, they get Bama and Vanderbilt. Alabama got Auburn, Tennessee, and Mississippi State. It's the third team that doesn't make any sense. Alabama, Mississippi State, I get is some kind of rivalry because they're so close to each other. But I can't think of the last time Mississippi State beat Alabama. It's just very odd in the sense of I don't understand why you chose those third teams. And again, you have to make a decision somehow, and you kind of just like get narrowed down. But again, Missouri is like one of the few ones here that makes sense to me. Like Oklahoma, Ole Miss as that team. What? Texas A&M got LSU, which is like their fabricated rivalry. They put in Missouri in there, so a little rivalry game for the second tier newbies of the SEC. And again, Texas makes sense. I don't get Vanderbilt. I don't get it. And again, it's kind of hard because they don't really fit in anywhere. I mean, they're kind of the new kids on the block in terms of being good at football. But again, I don't see it. And there's no history there. There's no bad blood there for them to be their third rival. Again, I hate the fact that Auburn has now gone 2 seasons without playing LSU. Auburn and LSU, that is a rivalry. So, again, I find it weird. Again, I guess, Auburn doesn't have to go through the gauntlet of those 3 teams every year, so I guess that's fine. But, yeah, let me know in the comment section below. Do you think they should have gave Auburn Vanderbilt for the third team? Or do you think it should have been LSU, Florida, Tennessee, or literally anyone else? Let me know in the comment section below. We're going to a quick little break. Other side of this break, we're talking about Bruce Pearl. So stay tuned, and I'll be right back. Are you tired of having to rummage through just clothes after clothes after clothes, looking for something to wear? Are you tired of your friends making fun of you for your terrible fashion sense? Well, do we have the shirt for you?
go to thewarreport.com, get your laptop out and do it right now. Go to the shop and get your very own Feelin' Loopy t-shirt as well as your college loop hat, and you can get both of them for only $25 each. Plus shipping and handling, of course. But with that, now back to your regular scheduled program.
And of course, you find out on thewarreport.com. Go to the shop, get your very own college loop merch today. Of course, not even the best way to support the channel. The best way to support the channel, of course, by liking the video, by commenting on the video, letting me know your thoughts on the Auburn A&M game, and of course, your thoughts on Auburn getting Vanderbilt as their third team to play every year. And of course, subscribing to the YouTube channel. Of course, we're getting so very close to that 1,000 subscriber margin. If I'm not mistaken, we're around 30-something away. 37 away from hitting that glorious 1,000 number. Be super cool to reach that milestone. On pace to get it during football season. So that's super awesome. But yeah, thank y'all so much for everyone that has already subscribed. Thank you to everyone who is loving the new rebrand of the College Loop, trying to get it look a little bit more modern feel to it. So now we go on to what's going to be my least favorite part of this show to talk about. Bruce Pearl yesterday, really randomly, came out and announced his retirement from the Auburn basketball head coach position. And just his retirement from coaching basketball in general. Let me put that out there. Bruce Pearl is going to Louisville or Maryland after this. And, you know, also it's worth mentioning that he is passing the torch on to Stephen Pearl, which I think many of us can agree Stephen Pearl was going to be the head coach in waiting regardless. And Auburn's already given him a 5-year deal. But I do think it's worth talking about what exactly this means for Auburn's basketball program and what exactly did Bruce Pearl mean to Auburn's basketball program. So kind of just looking towards the future here and, you know, trying to, you know, prolong any tears that might come up from this conversation. Auburn is in the best years of their basketball, like, career program. Bruce Pearl has done things for Auburn basketball that I could not have ever even seen. Like, and again, I can say this because I'm an Auburn fan. I've been an Auburn fan all my life. I can go ahead and tell you there was a very vivid time that I can recall, very vivid time in my life where I did not care about Auburn basketball. Listen, I love Simeon Bowers. I'd watch him. That's it. I wouldn't really care about Auburn basketball. If Auburn was winning or losing, I mean, I'd be upset, you know, the Auburn basketball was bad, but I was not paying attention to it. I didn't fully get the experience of the Tony Barbie era that everyone hates so much. But I can appreciate the fact that Auburn's not there anymore. So looking towards the future now, kind of moving to that, I think when you look at this team, I think the basketball team knew from the get-go that Bruce Pearl was going to retire. And I don't think that, you know, with that 30-day transfer portal window, whenever you lose your head coach, I don't think you're going to experience a mass excess of players. I think these players were fairly in the know. And again, Stephen Pearl, Bruce's son, I've got to find I'll just call him Steven, I guess. I guess SP, if you go by BP rules. Steven's been here since Bruce got here. He's always been an assistant coach, always been on the payroll, if you will, and has worked his way up to being the assistant coach these past couple of years. And again, Mike Burgomaster is still going to be the play caller. This is still the same staff outside of Bruce Pearl. And again, I think Chad Pruitt retired at the end of last year, if not mistaken. But again, I think that this team, the team understands this is pretty much the same coaching staff. And they know that, you know, the Auburn brand of basketball is still going to happen into the future. Could it change in a few years? Absolutely. It's up to Steven now to build his own legacy, and I don't think Auburn's going to really skip that big of a beat. Again, you're losing the best coach in the history of your program, and I think this roster was still built by Pearl. And again, Stephen Pearl was always an extension of Bruce. And I mean that in the highest compliment possible. I think Steven can accomplish great things. I don't think we're going to see a collapse of the Auburn basketball program. I think that Steven has spent enough time under his dad's wing to keep Auburn's basketball program where they are. And again, BP brought Auburn to 2 Final Fours. And again, only the future will tell if Auburn make it back to a Final Four again. After that first one, I didn't think Auburn's going to make it to another one. Regardless, I don't think that we're in any danger. And again, I look at this roster, and I'm still super stoked about the future of this team going forward. I mean, Tahad is going to be an all-timer for Auburn, whether or not he leaves after this year or not, going to the NBA draft. You picked up a lot of great players in the portal, and Keyshawn Hall, Kevin Overton, Elijah Freeman, Keyshawn Murphy, Amika Operum, and then you got a trio of dogs at a high school in Sebastian Williams-Adams, Abdul Bashir, and Caden Magwood, and then I can't forget Philip Jokic you got from across the pond, if you will. It's a great roster, and I trust what Mike Burmaster and Steven can do with this team. So I'm not going to be upset. And again, there were some people out there that said it was nepotism. I don't think so. I think this is a little different than that, because I think Steven was coached up throughout the years for this to be his job at the end of Bruce's tenure. And as I kind of move from the future and kind of look back at the time BP, the time BP was the head coach of the Auburn Tigers, I'm not in the least bit, what's the word? Negative, I guess. Pessimistic, there we go, about the future of Auburn basketball program. If something happens midway through the season, then yeah, sure, we can talk about it. But right now, I still think that there's still the extension of Bruce Pearl attached to Steven, to where nothing's going to happen this year that I'm like, let me not say it like that, but I think Steven, again, I think he understands the program his dad built, because he's been here the whole time. I don't think this was a bad direction to take. It was always going to be his job. So I'm not going to be upset about it. I don't think anyone else should be upset about it. This roster is extremely good and extremely underrated going forward. But now I'm going to shift into the, oh Lord, I might cry part of this show. Again, as I said earlier, before BP, 2 or 3 years BP before Bruce Pearl, I did not care about basketball. I was strictly a football fan. I'd watch softball here and there, because I loved that Auburn was like competing in that sport. Baseball kind of came and went sometimes whenever they were competing. But it wasn't until my senior year of high school, and I think it was that first year where Auburn got back to got to March Madness, where I was actively involved in watching Auburn basketball. And then I got to Auburn, and I finally got to really see Bruce Pearl up close and personal for that 2019 year. And again, I remember I put that Final Four in 2019 on some of my worst moments experience as a sports fan. I broke down in ways that man should never break down, because of that double dribble call that did not get called. And I look back at what Auburn was able to accomplish, and I hear all the stories about Bruce Pearl going classroom to classroom and begging students to show up to the game. But as a student, it meant something to go to these basketball games. And I still recall, me and Harrison Tarr going to, at that time, Auburn Arena, but Neville Arena, and spending the night in the freezing cold weather to go watch Bruce Pearl coach Auburn versus Kentucky. And that became a norm after that. And I did it again for Alabama, to a lesser extent for Alabama. But regardless, and I'm trying not to cough my lungs out. But I'm going to look back at the stats in a second. But Bruce Pearl brought another level to my Auburn fandom that I did not think I was ever going to really have added. Like, if Auburn football, I look back at like 2012 for being an Auburn fan of that 3-9 season, I had nothing else to look forward to. I was not all watching Auburn basketball in 2012. But throughout these last few years, Auburn lost. Okay, cool. Well, guess what? We're going to pivot over to basketball now. And Bruce Pearl kind of brought that to Auburn. The Auburn is an everything school. There are other things to root for besides just football. Come to the basketball games. Come support the women's basketball team. Let's go to the baseball field. Let's go to the softball field. Bruce Pearl is an Auburn man through and through. And I truly appreciate everything that he has done and will probably still do for Auburn athletics going forward. 6 tournament appearances in 11 years, unheard of. 2 Final Four appearances. Both of them, again, led me into an emotional wreck. But regardless, you become, because of Bruce Pearl and just who he is, there are a lot of teams that, we became so emotionally invested into because of what Bruce Pearl and who Bruce Pearl brought to this team. Without BP, we don't see Jabari Smith. We don't see Janai Broom. We don't see Jay Will. We don't see Dylan Cardwell. We don't see Sharif or we don't get to experience Jared Harper and Bryce Brown or the We've Got Jared song and the Call God celebration and all of this because of one man who won't even, I believe when I listen to Bruce Pearl, I know he would not take credit for it. He'll give it all to the students and the fans. Auburn never really being a number 1 team in the country and then getting there a couple of times, getting the number 1 seed in the tournament, SEC championships, getting to watch the confetti. I still have confetti in a Ziploc bag. I think I have a piece of confetti in my old wallet, and I did not throw that wallet away because I just didn't want to taint the confetti sitting in it. There were a lot of moments that I look back on, and I just absolutely appreciate everything Bruce Pearl did. And that 14-minute video that Auburn basketball posted today tore me to shreds, sitting there in my office. I sat there watching that video in complete and utter silence, and tears welled up. And again, it's hard not to. There's not a more likable coach in sports than Bruce Pearl. His sheer determination and love for Auburn made him one of the most likable coaches in sports history. And again, some tweet that I saw, and I wish I could attribute it to whoever said it, and so I'm not going to take credit for this, but called Bruce Pearl one of the most pivotal hires in Auburn athletics history since Pat Dye, and I completely agree. I think when you talk about a Mount Rushmore of Auburn coaches, I think you go Bruce Pearl and you go Pat Dye, or you go Pat Dye and you go Bruce Pearl, and it's like a 1A, 1B thing. Bruce Pearl has done so much, not only for Auburn basketball, for Auburn in general. And again, I desperately think that Auburn's best years are ahead of them, but it's hard to say that whenever these last few 11 years have been as awesome as they have been. And again, Bruce Pearl, again, he made Auburn basketball fun to watch. And he brought Auburn to blue blood status, if you ask me. Auburn got there. And again, I think that Bruce is going to be there to mentor Steven as much as he possibly can, or as much as Steven will allow him to. But again, this is Steven's team going forward, and I'm not upset about that. If Steven Pearl can even bring a tenth of the determination and energy that Bruce Pearl brought, Auburn's in awesome hands. But here's the thing. I've watched Steven Pearl coach for a few years, and watching him on the sideline, he's right there with Bruce, screaming at the players to coach him up and talking to the refs. Steven's got BP's energy, and he just has to prove it going forward, and I think he can. But yeah, Bruce Pearl, again, the statue should have been announced like yesterday. I think as soon as the social media posts went up, there should have been an unveiling scheduled for like the next week or something. I think you should name the court after Bruce Pearl. You already got I think someone said Bruce Pearl Court at Neville Arena, something like that. But yeah, I've cried quite a few times already. The people, y'all freaking suck, and posting edits of it on TikTok or Twitter with sad music playing behind it. I don't appreciate it. Running out of tissues over here. But again, Bruce Pearl has brought a lot of great things to Auburn and will continue to do so. Bruce Pearl isn't done with Auburn. He's not coaching anymore, but he's not done with Auburn. Again, truly appreciate everything that he has brought to this program, everything he has brought to the school. Truly one of those things, it's like I didn't get to fully enjoy Auburn football as a student, but I got to enjoy 40 years of great basketball. And again, I'll even have the sentiment whenever, Butch retires. I was not a big baseball guy until I got to Auburn, and then I was like, oh, I love Auburn baseball. So with that, all I can say is thank you, BP, for everything that you've done for Auburn and for basketball and everything you will do in the future. Truly, truly appreciate everything you've done. But with that, that's going to do it for some of the College Loop podcast. Of course, I'm Dylan Larck. I will take on Twitter. I'm Instagram as well at Dylan Larck, DYLN, LARCK. Of course, next show, we're going to be previewing and predicting the Texas A&M game, giving our thoughts, and again, a in-depth look at this game. Of course, leave your predictions for the game in the comment section below. Don't forget to leave your thoughts. And again, show some love to BP in the comment section below. But of course, don't forget to like and subscribe as well. Getting so very close to 1,000 subscriber margin. Again, I can't overstate that. Getting so close to it. Again, if you want to, I might actually cry if it happens live on stream again. As far as I didn't, I was cheering up just the thought of talking about everything on the show. But again, with that being said, thanks for tuning into the Stump the College Loop podcast. But of course, and as always, War Eagle.